I'm calling this meeting of the Barrington Town Council to order at 7:04 p.m. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on the land acknowledgement. And Councillor Breyer asked that this be placed on the agenda, if you want to take us through that.
It was actually Councillor Conway and I asked jointly, and she'll be addressing. Thank you.
Would you like me to introduce? I'm planning to introduce the speakers tonight. So I'm honored to introduce our speakers, who include the Guy and Brown family. And if you read read the Barrington Sound recently, this introduction will sound familiar, but I think it's just worth repeating for those who haven't read it. I'm thankful to the author of the article for their diligent research, too. The Guy Brown's family heritage goes back to the very land on which they live long before the inception of the United States of America. They are direct descendants of the Massasoit Usamequin, who had welcomed the Pilgrims from the Mayflower and signed the peace treaty with them that lasted for 54 years. The Massasoit was the leader of the headship Pokanoket tribe, which ruled over many other tribes within the Pokanoket Nation. The ancestral homeland of the Pokanoket tribe was called Soams. Its land consisted of what is now East Bay, Rhode Island, and parts of southeastern Massachusetts, which includes Barrington. The Brown Guy family are also direct descendants of Metacomet, the Massasoit Usamequin's son and successor, nicknamed by the English as King Philip. After King Philip's War, it became illegal to identify as Pokanoket. All of the people and their allies were instead labeled as Wampanoag by the colonists. Today, the Pokanoket people continue to work towards the preservation of their land, history, and culture. A land acknowledgement statement is a document that formally recognizes the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. It is a fundamental predicate of land acknowledgement statements that Indigenous peoples are not historical, vanquished, or assimilated communities, but that they are full participating in contemporary society who maintain unique, complex, and important relationships to the lands and water and the non-human creatures and beings that surround us. I had the good fortune of meeting our speakers at the most recent DEI committee meeting, where they told of their and our shared history. The Sachem Tracy Dancing Bear Brown has lived in Barrington for 25 years and has raised her 5 children here. She is the director of the Apple Blossom Early Learning Center. The Sagamore Dr. William Winds of Thunder Guy is the Sagamore of the Council 7 Royal House, Pokanoket Tribe, Pokanoket Nation. The title Sagamore can be translated to Chief of Chiefs. He was hand-chosen by his elders to inherit what was the Massasoit's role of leadership and which has been passed down through the line of heirs. They are joined by Dr. David Weed, president of the Friends of Pokanoket and Soams Heritage Area, and Don Brown, historian and educator. Welcome.
Please come forward.
Hello.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having us. Again, I am Po Pumaquak Anakis, translated Dancing Star. I am the sachem of the Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. I am the 11th great-granddaughter of the Massasoit Usamequin, who welcomed the Pilgrims to this land. I am also the 10th generation great-granddaughter of Po Metacomet, who is known as King Philip, who died fighting to protect this land. So the land on which we are all inhabiting together has a lot of history, and it is very important that that history is known. And as you just read from the Barrington Sound, we were in the Barrington Sound, and that was one of the most popular magazines that they had, because people wanted to know about this land, and they're very proud of that. What they're hearing is, they're very proud to, be here in Barrington in the land of Soam. So a land acknowledgement statement is very important, because it does just that. We are all here together, and it helps connect people to the land. And when you feel connected and when you care for something, you take care of that which you're connected to. And, as an Indigenous person, that's very important to me that, the land in the town of Barrington is cared for. I also come before the town council to support this because I'm a resident here in Barrington. I have lived here for 26 years. I've raised 5 children here. I am a proud grandmother. I've worked in this town. I was the director of the Barrington We Care Learning Center for 16 years. We had 82 children that I and my staff cared for every day. So I'm very vested in this community. I'm vested in the families. I'm vested in the children. I'm vested in the youth in this here community. And again, when, you talk about land acknowledgement, you're just setting that, that framework, that platform, for the children. Because here in Barrington, in this community, my children are awesome, and I give a lot of credit because I was able to raise them here, in Barrington, in this wonderful community. And we really need to set a tone for the youth and for the children, and we need to set, examples of, being friendly and welcoming others. And as far as the land acknowledgement, if you don't welcome or acknowledge, the first peoples of the land, then, how do you welcome all of those who come afterwards? So I think that this is just a really good precedent and just, the right thing to do. So I don't know if this is allowed, but I had 2 people from Barrington who wanted to come, but they were unable to come, and they wrote letters. Should I give them to you, or should I read them afterwards?
You can give them to us.
Okay, all right. I think I'll just let someone else speak.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions for me.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, council members, for your time. As was mentioned before, I'm Don Brown, travel historian of the Poconokeets and educator currently at Bayview Academy. And as an educator and been listening to hear about this town, we've talked about goals, promises, the importance of ethics, and the idea of a destination. And before you have a destination, you need to have a foundation. And when I hear this idea of a land acknowledgement statement, that is the foundation for what we want this community to stand for. A foundation set in truth and an acknowledgement in a place that welcomes people from all backgrounds and all heritages. America is part of this identity that we are forging together. America was a land built by migration and identity, and many of us here have ancestors that struggle to be accepted, or maybe your own grandparents told you stories about how they had to hide part of their heritage in plain sight. And we have an opportunity not to repeat the past, but learn from it with this acknowledgement statement, so that the children growing up here and the community here is a place where all cultures and beliefs are valued. Wouldn't that be a great place to be? And in the East Bay, where this kind of statement is so rare, wouldn't it be show the rest of the United States how we can live up to our potential by leading from an example not at the federal level, but starting where democracy should be at the local level, and branching out from there with individual decisions and hearing voices from members of the community. And so as we go into this idea of being peacemakers and building the foundation of truth, and that be the course that sets us out for our goals and our agendas, I urge again the acceptance of this land acknowledgement statement in an effort to recognize what Barrington stands for. We are a town of values. We value the truth. We value the people who live here. We value the heritage of everyone, and no one should be able to feel as though they have to hide part of themselves or hide their family's heritage, or have that family or people's heritage told to them from a stranger's perspective. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm William Guy, and I am the grandfather of that gentleman that just spoke. And this is not new to us. We've been good neighbors in Solhems for years. And that gentleman there, this is him at Nayet School, because they all went through the school system here. I guess he was about 8 years old there.
Thank you.
He's 31 now. So this is nothing new to us. My grandchildren have been involved in telling our heritage through the years in the Barrington school system. This is St. Andrews. We've done programs all throughout Barrington. This is St. Andrews School where we spoke. This is with the past preservation President Helen Jada. This is when this is me with Helen Jada and Governor Kacheri receiving at Open Space 2004, receiving a $300,000 matching check for Echo Lake area, which we saved from turning into condos over there. So we've been at this a while. You probably haven't seen me because I keep a low profile, but I am the chief of the chiefs. And this here is at the Barrington Recreation Department with John Taylor. We did a program for them. This is going back in, 2000? I can't see it, but I think it's 2011. 2011 with John Taylor, right over here in Barrington, the properties here. So, this is at Hampton Meadows School. We've spoken at all the schools in Barrington through the years. This is in 2011. Solhems Woods, when Helen Shader did the tour through the Solhems Woods, I was there and she asked me to say a few words at that time. And believe it or not, you had some boundary trees over there in Echo Lake, and a lot of you don't know what boundary trees are. You spoke about the Barrington Sound. But we've been in the Barrington Sound with articles for the last 3 months after this year, I believe, and someone else. And then, of course, this is here the Providence Journal article, and this is right here at Osamican Preserve. All right, so I mean, it's not, we don't come before the town council, but we've done a lot of work in Solhems. But this is just pointing out Barrington. And one other thing we've done for years, since 1996, is the crossover. So the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts to the Boy Scouts, and they've adopted our patch. That's the insignia of the Royal House of Pokanoket. All right, and they adopted that at their award ceremony in 1996, and it's done throughout the Solhems area. And Solhems in Rhode Island is Barrington, Warren, and Bristol, and East Providence is part of Solhems also. But in the time of the Massasoit, that included, of course, Swansea, Rehoboth, Seekonk, and East Providence was part of Seekonk at that time. One other thing of interest you might want to know, our last chief before I was chief, and then Miss Brown became chief because I'm over the chiefs, is that mural downtown Providence, that Indian Princess, that's my mother's first cousin. That's my first cousin once removed. She was the chief before I became chief. I've been Sagamore since 2007. I have 5 chiefs under me. So I just want you to know that we have been good neighbors in Solhems, and this is just a few of the articles that I pulled out of my scrap. I know I've seen some of you people through the years. I didn't come here as a resident, but I have owned here since 1998, and I was here watching all my grandchildren go through the school system. It is a good school system. Each one of them has graduated college.
That's great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Dr. David Weed from 23 Bridge Street in Warren. And I've been working with people in the town of Barrington for the last 4 years, particularly Helen Jader. I don't know if you remember her. She's since moved to the middle of the country, but in the process, she got me interested in the history of this place. And I've been spending the last 4 years working on what we call the Solhems Heritage Area, which we would like to see become a national heritage area like the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor. And there's no reason why that can't happen. We're working very hard to help that happen. But it would be a great help if the town of Barrington would adopt a land acknowledgement to give official recognition to the Poconoket tribe as the original people who have lived here for 10,000 years or more, and to help reclaim some history that for a variety of reasons we've lost and we need to recover. So as the Brown family has made clear, so that people understand what took place here over the last 400 years in an accurate way, and so that people from all walks of life can be recognized and welcomed here in the town of Barrington. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions? Thank you very, very much for coming in. This was a real treat for us. Does anyone want to make a motion?
So I received a letter from somebody who was invited by Tracy to speak, and she asked if I would read it. I know we received letters, but I don't have it printed, so I'd like to read that.
Sure.
It's from Elizabeth Splain, who's a local author and narrator. I had the pleasure of meeting Tracy Brown, Dancing Star, in preparation for the recording of an audiobook called Mayflower Chronicles, Tale of Two Cultures, which tells the story of the immigrants who came over on the Mayflower and their meeting and working with Massasoit Osamequin in the creation of a peace treaty that lasted more than 50 years. The story of what happened after the Pilgrims landed would have ended that first winter in 1621 had the Poconoket people not graced the immigrants with their knowledge, time, and expertise. The Poconoket people gave of themselves again and again, usually offering much more than they received, because according to their doctrine, we are all part of one loving universe. Sadly, as you probably know, the immigrants who came after the original settlers were not as gracious or as needy, and the Poconoket tribe's numbers were decimated by war as a result. I want to go back for a moment to how I, Elizabeth, met Tracy Brown. The woman who wrote Mayflower Chronicles is named Kathy Howeisen, and she is a friend of mine. She sent a note to me asking if I knew anyone in the area that could read through the manuscript pre-publication to make sure that her description and verbiage of the Poconoket people honored their traditions. I sent a request out on Nextdoor.com and ended up getting connected with Tracy Brown. The really interesting thing is that the woman who wrote the book, Kathy Howeisen, is a direct descendant of William Brewster, who was on the Mayflower, and Tracy Brown is a direct descendant of the original Massasoit who greeted William Brewster and the other passengers. That means that 400 years after the original treaty was negotiated between William Brewster and Massasoit Osamequin, their two direct descendants met again as this book was being published and recorded. That could not have been a coincidence. My small part in this amazing tale has opened my eyes to the real story about the Pilgrims and their arrival, as well as the real story of the first Thanksgiving. If you don't know it, you need to read Mayflower Chronicles, or at least listen to it. Since recording the audiobook, I have visited Mount Hope Farm and other areas that are associated with the Poconoket people. For 400 years, their tribe has been picked on, their land has been stolen, and yet they persevere. If you haven't spent any time with Tracy and her father, the Sagamore, you are missing out on a breathtaking history that spans generations and time. It's now our turn to give back to the generations of gracious people who allowed this country to be born in the first place. Let's join together to honor this remarkable group of people who gave so much of themselves, their tribe, and their spirit, so that a relatively small group of poor immigrants might not survive, but prosper. Thank you. And again, that was a letter from Elizabeth Splain, who's a Barrington resident and author and narrator.
And I have to add another coincidental situation. I am not a direct descendant of John Alden, but my husband is, and so my children are, and so it is my honor, truly, to be a part of this. I will make the motion to approve the following land acknowledgement. Akena which means peace. We recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. We acknowledge that we are in the ancestral homeland of the Pokanoket tribe within the original territory of the Pokanoket Nation. We commit to ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Pokanoket people whose ancestral lands and water we benefit from today. Okena, I believe that's how you pronounce it, which means peace.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
I would like to second, and if we can add context of what it will mean to adopt the land acknowledgement.
If you, why don't you second it, and then we'll have
Okay.
further discussion.
So second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion, please.
So if the motion were to include at any Barrington meeting at which a quorum of the council is present, the following land acknowledgement will be read.
Is that a motion to modify the motion? Because the original motion was just the reading.
Yes, I believe it is a motion to modify.
Yes, yeah, and then following what I said would be the reading of the land acknowledgement. So it's defining what adopting land acknowledgement means.
And I approve that.
Okay, so a motion's been made
Modification.
and seconded. The motion is that at any meeting where there is a quorum of the Barrington Town Council, there will be a reading of this statement, and then the statement that was read by Councilor Conway. Any further discussion? Is that what you meant
Yeah.
by conduct?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.